In our last episode, you saw us get Sunny, the 1984 Toyota Corona wagon, ready for Melonade 2023. This is a budget endurance racing event hosted by Motor Events Racing, taking place at the Bend Motorsport Park in South Australia. Before we get into how we went, we thought we'd give you a little bit of an idea of how Motor Events Racing events work.
This is a 25-hour race, however, it's over 3 days, so you don't do any night driving. It was 8 hours on the first day, 10 hours on day 2, and 7 hours on day 3.
They have a point system to determine what you can modify on the vehicles. So none of the safety equipment counts for any points. You have to have the safety equipment, non-negotiable. Then performance upgrades cost you points. You have 5 points total, and you lose points for tyres, brakes, suspension, and specific things that add power. I'll flash the table up on the screen here.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the power table can go here. So we, for the Bend, only spent 3 of the 5 points. We upgraded our tyres, we upgraded our suspension, and those are the only things we did that cost us points.
And they're tiered as well, so depending on like tread wear for the tyres,
you table.
You have 1 to 2. Look at the table.
We went coilovers. So we were the highest tier for.
Spent all their suspension points.
Yeah.
And spent a middle amount of tyre points and didn't spend points on anything else. So Motor Events Racing is split up into 4 categories. They're sectioned out by the power that the motor in your car made from the factory. So ME3 is from 0 to 89 kilowatts, ME2 from 90 to 139 kilowatts, ME1 from 140 to 199 kilowatts, and then you have ME Open, which is for cars with either 200 kilowatts or more.
Or potentially more expensive as well.
Yeah.
I was getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Cars that have been modified beyond the extent that the point system allows, or that were more than $5,000 rate book value in the first place.
So, how are you feeling?
I'm fine. Struggling to eat because I'm nervous, but that's right. Got to get that sustenance.
It had a note in the glove box that said, from the people before the people I bought it from, that said, "This is Sunny. I hope you love and enjoy it as much as we did," or something. It's like, oh no, I hope we don't bin this car.
Because this was the first race event any of us had attended in cars, we wanted to be there a bit early just to get everything squared away, double check we had everything that we needed. Needed to get the frequencies for the radios for the receiver, get to the driver's briefing, stickers on the car, double check all the bolt, track layout. You know, none of us had been to the track before either. So I hopped in the car to get it off the trailer. Then it was a time for a quick whip around the car park. This was the first time I'd ever sat in the car pretty much. First time any of us had driven it after we'd done all the work. Just wanted to double check that steering was connected, the wheels didn't fall off, the brakes worked. We sort of tried to bed them in a tiny bit in the car park. We picked up this jack from a guy called Norman Bates on Facebook Marketplace. After all the mechanical checks were done, it was time for the important bit, putting the stickers on. Because we'd arrived at the track super early, we got all the stickers on. The car looked fantastic from both sides, perfectly symmetrical. One thing that did come up during scrutineering was we didn't have quite enough roll cage padding. If our head was to become detached to our body, we didn't want our helmet getting scratched on the front bit of the roll cage. Luckily, there's a race shop, so we went there, picked up some extra padding, and added it around just the top bit of the roll cage and a bit extra on the side as well.
Using our extra time in the morning, we walked around the pits to make some friends. We figured when there was inevitably a catastrophe, it would be good to have some people who at least were familiar faces that we could ask for enormous favours. One of these guys did put the fear of God in us about brakes, saying that they went through 3 pairs of $400 race pads in one day in a car similar to ours at one of these events. So we immediately panicked, sprinted to the race shop that's on the Bend facility. Unfortunately, they were out of stock of racing brake upgrades for ST141 Coronas, so we settled for this $90 bit of tube, and I cable tied it on in an effort to get some airflow around the brakes.
As Cam and I had crashed into each other driving around the Bend on a Assetto Corsa, we were going to use the half-hour practice session to get Kit and Gavin familiar with the track, as they'd never seen it before. Here's Kit seeing a 6-point racing harness for the first time as I'm strapping him into the race car, or struggling to strap him into the race car. As well as never seeing the track before, Kit also had the challenge of bedding the brakes.
Right. Bed the brakes, don't forget.
anything else, Kit?
No, it was alright. Just slow.
That was a lie. It was terrifying. My first outlap in the car, it felt like the slowest thing ever. Cars were going around me left, right, and center. It was noisy. It was rough. It was not fun. This noise Nicola made represents how I was feeling turn 1 as I went on the track. Apart from the car being the sketchiest thing I'd ever been in, I also had a little bit of trouble hearing the race control on my one practice lap. I could hear some volume, but it was muffled. I couldn't understand what they were saying. So here you can see us messing around trying to get it set up.
It was lucky that we got to the racetrack early because we used our time finding out all the critical things, like what radio channels we had to be on with the receiver, and just getting everything prepared well ahead of time.
You know what frequency the race receiver's supposed to be on?
Oh shit, no I don't. Somebody in there will.
Cheers.
After I came in and we quickly got the radio situation sorted out, I went out for one last lap we had just enough time for, and as you can see, everything was going A-okay.
When Kit came in from his second warm-up lap, there was approximately 10 minutes to go before the car needed to be on the grid for the start of the race. It was at this point we noticed a pretty substantial amount of fuel flowing back out the fill neck. I don't want to get too technical in the video. Our car has an internal combustion engine and we didn't want any external combustion to happen, so it's important for the fuel to stay on the inside of the car. This was pretty stressful for all of us, considering the time frame. We decided to just let a lot of the pressure vent out, as eventually it had to stop. When it wasn't venting fast enough and Gav got a bit thirsty, we resorted to other methods. After about 5 minutes of letting fuel flow out onto the ground and the drip tray and into Gav's mouth, even after letting it vent for quite a while, you put the cap on and the pressure built up and there was still plenty of pressure in the tank. We decided just to never fill the tank as much as we had for the rest of the event, and that seemed to solve our problem. Once we got the fuel issue sorted, I got my gear on to do the lap to the grid. There's no practice sessions for motor events, racing events, so most of the drivers haven't driven the track that weekend, and some have never driven the track at all, which was the case for all of us. So they do the 3 laps behind the safety car before going green. All of our team members had 100% confidence in the vehicle as we approached the beginning of the race.
It's probably just a rattling piece of shit.
I did my best to dispel any of the worries Kit had from his warm-up laps.
Not pissing out. Did you see what I mean about the weird...
No, it's fine.
What was that, the weird noise?
I don't know, but it was fine.
Yeah.
At this stage, we also realised our comms weren't working the way we intended.
What?
See if your mic works.
Check.
Even though this is something we could have tested away from the track, we decided for fun not to test the comms until we got to the racetrack. The driver can't talk to the pit, but the pit can talk to the driver, and we can also now hear race control. After 5 minutes of unsuccessful futzing with the radio on the grid, it was time to set off for the first slow lap behind the safety car. Each lap of the safety car increased in speed to the point where it was faster than our racing speed. So we were losing the cars in front of us, even behind the safety car. As this is our first motorsport event and our first attempt at filming anything on this scale, we hadn't got the GoPros figured out. So we have no footage of my first stint. It, I'm sure from the outside, looked pretty uneventful. I was absolutely terrified. The car itself was basically fine. It's a little bit shaky and it's very, very slow, but it's a big, fast track. There were 50 other cars on track, and it's chaos.
Luckily for Cam and Kit, their first stint wasn't filmed, but unfortunately mine was, so I have to tell you about how I went off turn 1. Because of the uncertain brake situation, we decided to go pretty easy on the brakes, and I also seemingly decided to go pretty easy on the steering wheel. For any kids watching at home, this is probably the best line to take around this corner. I got my doors blown off by everyone, but through good consistent driving, I managed to get a few passes. Yep, no worries. No worries. This last overtake was so quick, it set the competitor's car on fire. Today happened to be a total fire ban, so race control red flagged the race.
Finally, it was my turn to get back in the car for my first proper drive. The outer eastern Adelaide countryside is infested with BMWs. Here you can see 3 of them hunting as a pack. As we got more confident in the car, we started keeping up with most of the pack in the corners. Even relatively slow cars still blasted us away on the straights. I stuck to this Scooby-Doo themed Impreza for a few laps, and as you can see, my constant applied pressure with no help from this white E36 finally forced them into an error. This was an exciting moment as our good buddies over at Government Funded Motorsport got held up under braking by this Hyundai Getz, and I was able to take them around the outside for my first proper pass. I was also able to get around the inside of the Getz on the next corner. The absolute rocket of a Falcon kept getting me back on the straights. We continued to have great back and forth battles with this team for the rest of the weekend. As rookies, we were pretty conscious of not holding anyone up, so we got pretty good at checking our mirrors just to make sure we got out of the way of the faster cars. By the end of my first 90-minute stint, I'd gotten pretty comfortable with the car and the track, and it was time for me to come in for Nick to have his first go.
Hit this lap.
We worked great as a team and all banded together each driver change to make sure it went smoothly and safely.
There was also no footage of my first stint as we were still having troubles with the recording.
While Nick was in the car, we made sure to focus on him and support him in every way he needed during his stint, never losing focus.
Yep, no worries. Yep, no worries. I decided to try a new line through here. Just trying out the high line. I thought maybe they knew something I didn't. Turns out we both knew nothing. The outside line did work for me here. I was a bit indecisive about what gear to be in. Another perfectly executed pass.
Gav eventually gave me a go, and I started the last stint of the day. I overtook this E36 that I'm sure was running perfectly at the time, and then I was immediately overtaken by two cars at once. Despite Government Funded's best efforts, we always caught them in the twisty bits. The sun got low in the sky, allowing me to do an impression of Ari Vatanen. I was overtaken by two cars at once again. This really hurts the ego. Smoke started coming into the cabin, but at this stage I didn't notice. I ignored the problem long enough to have a battle with this XL before the smoke got worse. Fortunately, it was the last lap of the day, and I limped it back without losing a lap.
Smoke, temp spike, so I'll get you to push me.
We were a bit worried that the smoke meant something a bit more serious, but it turned out just to be a really nasty valve cover leak, probably caused by the fact that the four nuts holding it on were basically just finger tight. So we whipped out our valve cover gasket in a tube and fixed it right up, and we didn't have any more issues.
This is so annoying. Why don't we ever have the right tool for the
Cars that on paper have 3 or 4 more kilowatts are like trucking by on the straight. Yeah.
Once we had the valve cover gasket leak fixed, we decided just to do a quick check over the car. We rotated the tyres just because we were getting pretty nasty wear on the front and basically nothing on the back. We also just gave the car a whole check over, checked the brakes.
There's a decent amount left in there.
That looks like a lot. We need to come out the bottom. There's a fair bit of brake pad there. Which is...
No, they're good.
Our pre-race job for day 2 was chucking on the rest of the stickers that we weren't able to get on day 1. Contrasting day 1, day 2 started off well with all the internal fluids staying internal. For those who haven't driven the bend, there's multiple different layouts that you can run it in. Each day they run a different layout, so day 2 we had to learn some new bits of the track. Basically they'd just taken out that little chicane area called the bus stop, so it was a bit faster flowing, which was sort of bad for us because we were pretty fast in that little section. We were able to make up some pace, but probably more fun. It was more flowy. This is a great example of how cars like this Hyundai Getsu have basically the same power on paper. We're still blowing past us on the straights. This Hyundai gets away from me on the straight, but a couple corners later I gets him back. I had a great little battle with this Lee car. And I was able to make the pass stick after a few laps of being behind him.
After our Netflix style pit stop, I went out there and I remember what everyone said to me, which is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And then after a quick stint, I got out and gave Gavin a shot.
The motor event's refueling regulations meant we all got to put on our cool hats and gloves every time they came in to refuel.
This AU was confused about the day 2 layout. Overtaking another perfectly healthy BMW. Turns out this was my preferred line. Two off on the left side, two off on the right side. Yes. Max Verstappen. He devised a brilliant system to explain to the pit wall how many eighths of fuel we had left by using fingers. In this clip, we have 7/8 left. See ya. And now I gets him back. I mean, Falcon him back. Hey, that's my line. Yes! Glad to have finally figured this corner out. This car was always so quick for half a lap before it broke down. I was excited to get my car back to my supporting teammates.
I fucking passed like 4 people down there. That was sick.
I paid for the whole track. I'm going to use the whole track. Oh, Gavin told me about a fast line through this section. That can't be right. I thought if I was making a trip to the Enforcer, I might as well get my money's worth. The way the driving standards are enforced at motor events is that anytime you go 4 tyres off, you have to come into the pits and chat to the enforcer. And if he, in all his infinite wisdom, deems it necessary, you make a donation to Rare Cancers Australia.
Hey, I put 4 off over the other side. 4 off.
Before you make it, I'm going to give you a red out of tapping stickers so we know. Hey, can we get some donation out of you?
Yeah.
Our race strategy team got it a bit wrong for my third stint, and I ended up having to come in halfway through for some fuel. You can see here the international standard signal for 1/8 of fuel left. Yep, no worries. I wish we had two-way comms. The car started to develop a bit of a fuel starve problem on fast right-hand corners. A lot of this is due to it being carbureted, and the float just can't handle that sort of lateral G's that a high-performance car like this can pull. Man, I wish we had two-way comms. Our race strategy team dropped the ball, so I had to fuel mid-stint.
I was forecast to full stint!
Two-way comms no longer necessary. Like our car, this Commodore was having some internal fluid to external fluid conversion problems, so they were black flagged so they could sort it out.
So unfortunately, no footage of me driving again. We think it's due to the GoPros not being able to just handle the raw speed and G-forces that my driving was pulling. So unfortunately, yeah, no more of my next stint either.
I really thought I had him on the outside. This BMW showed me their nose and I got scared. Throughout the stint, the brake pedal had been getting longer and longer, but at this stage it went to the floor. I tried signalling the pit wall by flashing my headlights, flashing the indicators and waving my hands at them, but none of it worked. We really need two-way comms. Turns out they were distracted being lifesavers, letting race control know that this Commodore had gotten intimate with the wall on the outside of turn 3. The session was then red flagged while the Commodore was cleaned up. This was perfect timing for us, as it meant the brake pad situation wasn't going to get any worse. I pulled in, and then Gavin and Kit performed the fastest pad change I've ever seen, changing the front pads, hot and fresh off the track, and getting the car back onto the track in under 20 minutes, only missing 1 lap. My engineering qualification came in handy, and that allowed me to supervise all the work successfully. I jumped back in the car before anyone could protest and went out to finish my stint.
I reckon we actually got that just before that was going to destroy the
This is me letting the team know their work wasn't up to scratch and the brake pedal is still going long. Gavin's line isn't working through here anymore, I'll try a different one. The car lasted the remaining half an hour and we made it to the end of day 2.
Saw you like dabbing the brakes on the straight.
Yeah, the pedal's really long still.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bleed it. Yeah.
That's what.
So you were just building up pressure.
I was just building up pressure.
After a surprisingly uneventful and successful day 2, we spent a little bit of time going over the car. We put some fresh tyres on the front, which actually helped the rotation quite a lot. Did a good check over of everything, changed the oil, bled the brakes again, just to get it as fresh as we could for day 3. On the morning of day 3, we got Gav all suited up for his first stint, and Cam got this cool new red hat.
I had an off and came in to see the enforcer, but luckily my friends had my back.
I thought I'd lock up 2 to help the Astra driver's ego. Ah, another great double overtake around the outside. Bloody BMWs. The day 3 track layout was much shorter and it had this great section of really high speed right-handers into a pretty fast chicane. And we were really fast there, and as you can see, we were able to make up heaps of ground against the faster cars in this section. Had a pretty good couple lap battle with Ford and Holden Racing team here as well. We were starting to sort of pick up our speed, so even though the cars were faster in the straights, we could sort of keep up just because we made up so much time in the corners. Yet another great double overtake. Also had a pretty long battle with the Scooby-Doo WRX and was finally able to get past them in the end. Government-funded motorsport graciously let me catch up in the straight and then blew my doors off. Had another great long battle with government-funded motorsport. A lot of trading places. It was fantastic. Ah, gets him again. Oh yeah, just making sure he had room to pass on the inside. Yep, no worries. Was able to take them through the inside of this corner even though I locked up on entry. I thought it was about time I do my part for the team in finding some new creative lines. Yep, no worries.
Here's me doing a good double overtake around the outside of the Civic. Out here I was discovering new lines to bring back to the team. I know Gavin and Cam had brought a few to the table, so I was just discovering some of my own here. It turns out that some of the other teams were more adventurous than we were in finding alternative lines. Yep, no worries. Yeah, no worries, 3 wide.
Before I got in the car, Nick explained to me how the car was behaving, and Kit beat up Gav as he was refueling. Had one of several great battles with the Ford and Holden Racing Team Astra. This is the fastest the Corona went all weekend. While in the slipstream of this Magna that was in the process of breaking down, the little yellow wagon got all the way up to 155 kilometers an hour. This Saurus saw Nick's line and tried to give it a go. Might need a bigger ironing board on the back if they want to go that fast through there. This is the first time I went flat through this section. It's really fun and the car is super well behaved. It's very stable, probably because of the long wheelbase and all the understeer. Luckily I'm better at driving than I am at doing shuckers. Just. The Hyundai locked up and I gets past. Yep, no worries. Apparently this is the new line through here. This has become the new SubPar Endurance Racing line in the penultimate corner. I got out of the car with so much confidence, I forgot I needed to help with the driver change. We put Gav back in the car for what would become the last stint in the race, and we all just crossed our fingers that the car would make it the last hour or so.
It's pretty useful for Cam to give me a rousing pep talk and filling me with heaps of confidence before my stint.
Feels okay? Yep. It's popping out of here a lot. Right. I was continue to take it really fucking easy on the brakes, but there is a pedal. Yeah,
I'm not gonna beat on it.
yeah. Tyres will have gone off a long way from what you'll remember.
What?
The tyres are gone way off.
The rear or the
Front.
Without two-way comms, I was trying to be pretty committed to team morale, less so than steering inputs. Got to do something about the understeer. I've had an issue here, and Kit did earlier, and Cam did earlier, and then I did earlier. Oh, that one actually counts.
With a couple of laps left in Gavin's stint, I gave the order to put some swaz on it, which Gav used up what was left of our brakes, which I think scared him a little bit.
How many eighths of swaz did we have left in it?
I would say 0.8.
Yeah, 0.8.
But yeah, I assumed it was the last lap, and so I started to go deep into the brakes that we didn't really have left. And then I rounded the last corner onto the main straight with the start-finish line, and there was no flag, no nothing, and we were just still racing.
That radio call just happened at the time that I decided we were going to make it to the end. So we had one fast lap and then a slow lap for the final lap. Made it around. We're all absolutely stoked.
We probably couldn't have timed the swaz any better because we had half a mil brake pad left.
Yeah. Ridiculous that a mechanically mostly unmodified 1984 Corona could be driven flat out for 25 hours.
There was no real reason to expect it to do what it did.
Yeah.
I think probably a lot of the reason it did make it is because we touched the real important stuff, not that much.
It was 2,200-ish kilometers.
Yeah, so what's that, two and a bit Bathurst?
At racing pace, racing pace, Corona racing pace.
It's bonkers to think though that that's like you hop in the car in Melbourne, drive to Sydney, flat out the entire time and back pretty much, and the car's fine. Yeah.
Then to Canberra again or something.
It's crazy.
It's a lot of distance, and car handled really well. For the most part, we handled it well. I think everyone but Gav felt pretty unwell at the end of their first stint.
It was pretty hot in the car on the first day. It was fine. You just got out and you were wrecked.
And you were wrecked.
Yeah. I wasn't unwell or tired. I was just terrified and unsure if racing was for me.
Yeah, we definitely all had a moment early on track when we didn't know the car, didn't know the track, that we were like, do I not like the thing that I've put all my money into?
I mean, it was one of the most fun weekends I've ever had.
Oh,
certainly,
sure.
like, most successful car project we've ever done.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I cannot recommend motor events enough as a thing to do if you want to get into motorsport. It's still expensive because all motorsport is expensive.
It's budget, but
it's still, but it is. I mean, definitely in terms of hours on track, it is the cheapest racing you can do. More than 5 hours each for about $800. And obviously, if you don't have to build the whole car and the build up, once you built the car, you built the car. Once you built the car, you built the car. You could do it for the price of a legal car plus $5,000. You could do that weekend.
Yeah.
And that's, you can't get that anywhere else.
And the other thing is the people there, they're good people and they want you to succeed as well. It's not purely competitive. It's more about everyone finishing and having a good time.
Yeah, it's more competitive than they say it is, but less competitive than a real racing series.
On track, it's way more competitive than you think, but off track, there was we borrowed brake fluid from teams. We left our tools in the team's garage overnight. We were blown away by the support that all the teams showed us. Everyone loved the car. Obviously, it's quite different to what everyone else is running.
We felt like rock stars driving through pit lane at the end. Everyone was cheering for us and giving us thumbs up and high fives, and
we felt like we came first.
Yeah, it felt like a win. I think it was appreciated that we hadn't bought a car intentionally to be as competitive as we can. We bought a car that we liked, and then we're going to try and make it competitive.
Yeah. It was the meta really was buying an E36.
It made it quite a bit more effort though, because we couldn't get any performance parts or anything. Had to make things work. Bit of a part thing.
We've created extra work for ourselves, but I also think it's a more fun way to do it.
Yeah, sure. We're pretty exciting. Had a lot of fun doing it. We definitely did it the most difficult way we could have. probably cost ourselves more money than we
A lot more money.
than we could have.
No, and having a car that there's only a handful of them that have ever been on a racetrack. I feel a little bit special to be able to take an old car and give it a new life in something that people haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun doing something people don't generally do.
Don't see a lot of wagons out either, which was like a prerequisite for us.
Yeah,
So
love a station wagon.
We're hoping to become the team that everyone loves because we're slow and doing it in a funny car to the team everyone hates because we're winning in a really stupid car.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Specific thanks to the Narborough team. They were in the Falcon with the Marlborough Commodore livery on it. They gave us brake fluid when we needed brake fluid during our pad change.
One of our
brake sagas, they just handed us some brake fluid. So after we sort of put the car away, after everyone got off track, they had an award ceremony, and it was very kind. We got what is a glorified participation trophy, but they gave us the encouragement award for embodying the spirit of motor events.
We don't award every time, but I think this team, it's a new team to us, and they've really embodied the spirit of what budget racing is about. They didn't rock up with a BMW, they didn't rock up with an XL. They said, you know, damn it, we're going to build our new budget car out of a Toyota Corona wagon. So, SubPar Endurance Racing.
It feels silly to be so proud of it, but I actually am genuinely proud of it.
Yeah.
Because the car was really popular and we loved the car obviously, and we thought the event was so much fun. So for them to be like, this is what it's about, that felt pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, as we said, it felt like a win when we came off the track, and getting an award also felt like a win, regardless if it was just...
Obviously, congratulations to the teams that did win.
Well, yeah, so in a sec, you'll see a clip of the real winner. After the fake winners get out of the way, the real winners got to spray champagne on each other. Yeah, that was the weekend. Pack up and 7.5 hour drive home, dragging a race car.
We'd obviously like to thank Motor Events for putting on the event and being so helpful for all the new people. We weren't the only team, there was a few other new teams. And they were so helpful, so kind.
Weren't ostracized at all for being rookies. Like, in fact, like, people were really supportive because of it.
Yeah.
I highly recommend if anyone wants to try their hands at some racing.
100%. Big thanks to Murdoch Christmas Tree Farm for contributing to the running costs of the race. And also, raising Kit and I.
Yep. And also, my partner Nicola and Cam's partner Georgia, they came and helped out a bunch as well with all their gear and
they made all the food.
Yeah, kept us fed and watered.
Kept us fed and watered for the weekend, and also kept track of, one of us would put something down and walk away, and we go, where the fuck's this? And Georgia
usually in Gab's Land Cruiser.
Georgia or Nicola go, you left it over there.
Yeah, we were pretty chaotic most of the weekend, and it was good to have people that were slightly less stressed and sleep deprived than we were.
Yep.
To kind of, pull us all into the same direction sometimes, so that was nice.
We want to thank Natasha, or as we were referring to her, Video Tash, for filming all of the racing portion. We'll put her socials across Gavin's face right now, and it'll link in the description and all that. Thanks for watching. We are going to try and keep doing this. This is obviously the beginning, but we want to make something out of this. We want to be able to make YouTube car content. So
subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, do the YouTube algorithm things, please.
Yeah.
And
click the bell icon.
Yeah,
do
it
all
used
that.
to be you had to make good videos to
we
impress
can't.
people.
We,
now you just have to...
we can't copy Superfast Matt yet. We don't want to let him know how much we like him.
We were planning on racing Winton at the Winton Rumble next. However, we decided we wanted a bit more time to get the car a bit more sorted so it would have zero issues. So our next race will be at the Thunderdome at Calder Park Raceway.
Yeah, so stay tuned for stage 2 of Sunny the Corona.
Yeah.
And we don't really have a proper sign off, so I'm just waffling.
This is good, just fade it out.
Just fade it out while we keep talking.